Good morning, everyone. It's a Friday morning, June coming to an end on Monday. Still some severe weather across the U.S. I would call this a smattering of severe weather reports from Texas to Georgia, and then a big cluster here from northeast Kansas up into Iowa, which includes a couple of tornadoes. I'll zoom in on that in a minute. And this always would, when I show this map, it's going to be wind gusts 59 or greater. That's the yellow. Tornadoes are obviously in red, and then hail 1 inch or larger is the purple icon. So just so you know how to interpret that chart. But various reasons here, and when we start getting into a more summertime pattern, the thunderstorms tend to be a little less organized, with the exception of this activity here. This was actually several lines of storms, but the rest of this stuff tends to just form in clusters this time of year. Tornado reports around Albert Lee in Minnesota, and also another kind of clustering down there between Fort Dodge and Mason City, Iowa. And again, we won't know how strong those tornadoes were. And those are just reports. It's likely that this might have been the same tornado reported many times. Let's take a look at the pattern here, and this is kind of a neat thing to look at. I just took the next 3 days of severe thunderstorm outlooks and plotted them over each other, and it helps to see progression, so you can kind of see the centroid of this is moving with time, and there's a reason for that, of course. Upper level disturbance moving across that area. On the visible satellite loop this morning, we still have a couple of interesting features, including this just kind of a loosely organized train, I guess you could say, of moisture streaming up into the Great Lakes. The next storm system, the one that's producing those 3 days of severe weather, is clearly agitating the clouds up there in Montana and parts of the Dakotas. Meanwhile, we still have the circulation around that big high that's causing the hot weather, but that's beginning to diminish a little bit and loosen up. In fact, this entire pattern reverses itself. Really, the Northeast will actually cool down as a trough of low pressure develops. We'll show you that here in a minute. Let's take a look at the radar loop real quick this morning. And although there will be thunderstorms ongoing here this morning and into this part of the world, none of those are really expected to be severe in any widespread fashion. And we'll show you the outlook here in a minute. First of all, let's show you the 500 millibar chart, see what's going on. So that ridge that was defining the hot air is being broken down by a low pressure area here that's actually was going this way, and now it's getting caught up in the flow, and it'll start ejecting more this way, and that's what's causing those random thunderstorms down there. Meanwhile, the stronger winds, which we always look to in a traditional sense to get organized severe weather, are just now entering Montana and northern Wyoming and getting into the Dakotas. This is valid about 1 o'clock today, the forecast at least for that. Still have the scattered thunderstorms out here in connection with just general air mass thunderstorms and that upper level low. And then clearly we have a progression of stronger winds in the northern plains. Let's zoom in on that a little bit here. So that's a level 2 area that goes from Nebraska all the way to Canada. So they've gotten, the brunt of a lot of the severe weather, either up here in the Dakotas or over here has been the 2 severe weather hotspots really for the last couple of days. There is a tornado risk, and enough to talk about. 5% risk. That's a 5% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any point. That goes from Pierce, South Dakota up to Bismarck and points just a little bit east of there. So pretty focused area really for thunderstorms to produce a tornado up in that part of the world for today. Nadocast has a 3% risk in that area, kind of loosely defined, really. That's the 0Z data. They may refine that later on today. There's a link in the description, by the way, if you want to go to that website and look for yourself. The CSU severe thunderstorm probability, it divides it into 3 types. Severe thunderstorms defined as either a tornado being produced, and there's strong agreement there with that 5% risk in South Dakota. SPC puts it a little further south, but and then we've got the hail probabilities fairly high in that area too, and the wind probabilities backing off a little bit just generally across the country. Here's a simulated radar, the HRRR model. This is through midnight tonight. It'll just keep looping, and you'll watch where the thunderstorms are forecast to develop today. So that's that area right there. That is the level 2 area with the tornado chance embedded in that. We'll watch it loop again. You see there's a chance of isolated supercells at first and then more linear structures developing. That's a very common pattern in the summer. If we go to Saturday's 500 millibar forecast, this upper level low still kind of spinning around, very weak trough Again, enough to initiate maybe a couple more thunderstorms down there in Georgia. But the main flow is still concentrated from Montana into Minnesota for Saturday. So likewise, a severe weather threat, level 2 out of 5, is in that area from northern Nebraska and much of South Dakota. Along I-90 and then up to Minneapolis and points just a little bit north of there. The tornado threat is up in the Arrowhead region of Minnesota, almost down to Minnesota, and it's a slightly reduced threat, only a 2% chance out of a tornado within 25 miles. If we take a look at some verification here with the CSU model, it pretty much verifies, except they pump it up to a 5% chance in that area. Of right on the border region between Wisconsin and Minnesota. Not a particularly high severe hail or wind risk, but it does exist for those same areas. Then on Sunday, this upper level trough is just kind of slowly making its way across the northern plains. And this time of year, that's where the jet stream should be found. It both goes north and weakens a little bit, but strong enough to organize severe weather. And sure enough, like we showed you on that first graph, it's a progressive pattern. So Wisconsin then goes under the gun on Sunday for that level 2 out of 5 threat. CSU agrees, but that puts a slight tornado risk up there in the UP, and then just kind of trickles out hail and wind probabilities, but not really a very focused centroid on that, and the probabilities are lower. The red would be a little bit more significant. That's not showing up yet on Sunday. And then the SPC has nothing on the day 4 through 7, 8 forecast time frame that begins on Monday, so we'll just show you the CSU models. Pretty broad brush. Now, this entire area here is going under troughing aloft, so it is starting to diminish. In fact, the big push of that starts on Tuesday, so that explains why this exists and why nothing happens here. So that's really kind of a carving out, really, of the severe weather threat that occurs here. And then the circulation around the high that's connected with that starts to increase probabilities again across the high plains, although not striking. On Thursday, a virtually identical pattern, really. Let's take a look at the 500 millibar mean. These are called the dailies, and they come out twice a week. And this is just an average 500 millibar flow for a week's time. So June 30th, Monday, and then 7 days into the future. So that's meant to just kind of show you the general flow of things. So you can kind of see there's a carving out, just kind of more troughing, and then this blue color indicates slightly below normal heights or lines on here. In other words, dipping southward of the lines is a little bit slightly below what the mean would be for this time of year. Meanwhile, this is a ridge of high pressure, and that's showing up strongly as being maybe a little bit above what you might expect this time of year. So when this happens, generally speaking, right in the core of this, you don't get any severe weather. Now, along the periphery of it, you certainly can, and certainly up through here, and that's what I think we've been taking a look at, really. And it does show that, generally speaking, that the thunderstorms are eventually the same system that's working across the northern plains here this weekend is going to exit here, and then this will keep that pattern away for a while. As far as dew points for that same weekly period, actually averaging at or slightly below normal readings in that area. Again, that's a good indicator that more stable air is working its way in. Meanwhile, again, higher dew points in New Mexico, even now spilling into parts of Arizona. Maybe some long-range indications, and I'll cover this in Weather to Watch later on today, that a monsoon pattern will be setting up out here again that also includes more of Arizona. So let's finally take a look at the NIU probabilities, June 27th through July 3rd. Pretty much in the northern plains, pretty much not really unexpected, and not really widespread on the highest probabilities. But then we go to the next week, the 4th through the 10th of July, and we start to really step things up again. And pretty solid July 11th through July 17th. And that's been consistent every day this week. So it does look like the middle of July we'll see an uptick in at least supercells, which are necessary for organized severe weather for the most part. So I'll be watching for that in the northern plains by about mid-July. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day 1 because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.